Okay, well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh my gosh, I haven't hosted in a while. Good morning, Atlanta. Good morning, Southeast, East Coast, West Coast, wherever you are. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Good morning, Tara, Fareed, Grande, Chase, Virtue, Rashida. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. And if you're listening to the recording, good morning. So I got a question for Tara. Tara, do you know why Dracula doesn't have any friends?
He's a bloodsucker?
That too, I guess. Because he's a real pain in the neck.
That's good. That's good.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for being here. It is just quite a delight for me, privilege and opportunity and an honor to be with you this morning. Those of you who are here, let me see, Rashida, Virtue, Grande, Sue, Lisette, Saurel, Michelle, Kurt, thank you for being here. Today we have Kurt as our guest. Kurt, thank you for being here, Kurt.
My pleasure.
Kurt, before we go into our question of the day, which is quite confronting, as Saurel likes to say, what have you done or are you doing today with people with disabilities? What have you done or are you doing today with people with disabilities? And I think we really want to listen to this question. We're going to get closer to this question because we're all in it together. And I can't say I have been doing something. And so I'm looking forward. I'm really looking forward. So, but before we do that, let's anchor ourselves in the possibility of being here today and present. So Fareed, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
Where are you and what time is it?
Oh, well, I am here. I am here, and the time is now. The time
Oh man,
is now.
it gives me chills every time I hear it. I am here and the time is now. I think I'm getting moved. Somebody said that the best drug in the world is to be present. I am here and the time is now. Tara, one question for you or two questions for you. Who are you going to hug today? One person you're going to hug today, one person, and one thing you're grateful for.
So I think today I will hug my daughter's new caregiver because she deserves that.
Oh.
Yeah. And I am feeling today very grateful that my body allows me to exercise.
Strong body, strong mind. That's what they say. And Rashida, one last question for you, Rashida. How are you?
I am fine, and today's my birthday, so I am a birthday celebration, and I have a new grandson just got here at 4:59 this morning, so I am here. Happy
Happy birthday and congratulations.
Oh my God, today's a party. Happy birthday, Rashida.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here on your birthday and celebrating your grandson. This is important, Kurt. Kurt, you have an audience today. Kurt, so Kurt, thank you for being here. And I want to ask you, so there's this big question that today you're going to take on. What have you done or what could you do with people with disabilities? Where did this question come from, Kurt? And thank you for being here.
Yeah, I am pleased, proud, and privileged to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity. And, so to frame this and respond to what you're asking, Giovanni, where did this come from? It's a little bit of, I'm 51 years old. So we're talking about 5 decades of life. And, you know, I was born into a family where my parents, grandparents, and others in the adult community around me, part of Lions International, Lioness, and with Knights of Columbus, Ladies of Columbus. So in childhood, having an experience where, you know, we take a concerted effort in the community of people who are blind and visually impaired, and those who today we would say are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And another part of it is that I happen to be a lifelong water skier. I was born into the tradition of water skiing. My mother and aunts put on water ski shows, entertaining audience. I remember, like, when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, you know, being at the shoreline, and, you know, my mom and aunts were out there performing. And so then what happens is my brother finds a poster when we're in high school. He finds a poster that in our local area, there's a water ski club forming to put on water ski shows. He joins it. We watch him put on water ski. I join this club. A few years later, they get into the business of providing water skiing for people with disabilities, with an agency that serves adults with disabilities. So this is, you know, all types of disabilities are being served here. And another thing happening is that senior year in high school, I apply for a scholarship, and I get a scholarship from Optimus International. And the story that evolved there right in this timing was they become an organization with the scholarship process. They have an oratorical contest. But what they do is they have some of their membership speaking up to say, well, what about students who are deaf or hard of hearing? So now you'll find at Optimus International a communications contest for the deaf and hard of hearing. And right now, actually, I am the chair of the Southern Wisconsin district for Optimus International for CCDHH, which is the communications contest for the deaf and hard of hearing. But what really ignited it is, you know, in this session, my wife Sue is tuned in. She's connected into the Zoom. And, you know, when she met me, I'm in this water skiing thing. And when I met her, she had skied like maybe 7 or 8 times. And she came out to our ski show, and she was just going to do counted cross stitch and watch. Well, the kids in the club came over to her and said, well, Sue, why aren't you in the club? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And that night she signed up. Those kids tugged on her and she joined the club. So now she too is involved in taking adults with disabilities water skiing. Well, what happens to us 10 years ago is we structure, you know, a worldwide monumental opportunity where a gentleman with cerebral palsy, power wheelchair user, emerges and offers to us to be in our water ski show. And so we orchestrate this with our ski show director and a handful of other people. And lo and behold, this guy comes out, you know, more ready to ski than my wife Sue and I and the rest of the club. I mean, he's got his towel there, obviously, his neoprene shirt, his swimsuit, goggles, water socks. He's ready to go. But what happens, everybody, is 2 of our friends come over to me. And of all things, the discussion is what's happening, and they're concerned. They're seeing this. They can see adaptive water skiing about to happen, and they don't want it to happen. They're worried. They're concerned. They're thinking this ought not happen. And the one thing that our one friend told us told me that really bothered me was, well, if he skis, then everybody's got to ski. Well, what happened? Well, and so he goes home. He didn't ski. Our friends just kind of had this, I'm going to call it a mental block and lack of experience on it. Didn't have that frame of reference to say like he should have skied that night, because we had been taking adults with disabilities skiing for 20 years prior to that. Like we have it down. Like this is routine. Like we had the squad ready to go. Let's just do it. It's a done deal. But no, it didn't happen. And this bothered me so much. You know, like last night, I slept really well. I was excited I am about this show. I still slept pretty decent last night. You know, so 51 years of saying I sleep like a baby. But that night, Giovanni and everybody, I did not sleep well at all. And the only thing I could do is when my wife and daughter woke up, we huddled up, you know, the daily huddle, you know, we huddled up. and talk to them about it. Well, what emerged was we became the family that started the Everybody Skis program, the Inclusion to Water Skiing campaign. And you know what? These guys helped us with Wisconsin Water Ski Federation more than sextuple the access to the sport of water skiing in 6 years for people with disabilities coming through Wisconsin. I mean, so this just wasn't a little bit of an experience. I mean, this was like, you know, the most amazing thing that happened to the Roskopf family and all of our friends around us and everybody, you know, that could watch it over the Milwaukee television. And it was amazing. And it's such an amazing experience that I'm here today, everybody, to say, you know what? I'm here to pronounce people with disabilities as the masters of ability. You know, in this trail, I open myself up to everything that serves people with disabilities. I went to independent living centers. I went to aging and disability resource centers. I ended up serving as vice chair of the Wisconsin Council on Physical Disabilities. I now have ability ministry. I talk to groups about inclusive recruiting. It's like when I talk about my Optimist Club, I challenge my optimists all around the world. How are your rosters looking, including members with disabilities? Because this is what I had to be taught, folks. I had to be taught that people with disabilities are not just objects of charity and or pity and stuff like that. People with disabilities want to serve too. They want to be members of Rotary. They want to be members of Lions International. They want to be a member of your favorite volunteer organization. And when we look at personal professional development, like right here at the Daily Huddle, we can huddle up and say, hey, everybody, how are we doing having people at the Daily Huddle that are people with disabilities? Can we do more? And what happened in 2014, July 26, 2014, the ADA networks announced through the community of Americans with disabilities that they were putting out journalism. They were blogging. They had a 365-day blog post attracting Americans with disabilities to review how the Americans with Disabilities Act has been impactful for them, how they rely on it, how it is necessary, how it plays into their life. And you know what, folks, that really hit me in the heart, because their message was the lives of people with disabilities are every day. In 2014, I had to have that self-introspection. I had to have that moment of humility, quite honestly, embarrassment, that, you know what? I did not open my life to people with disabilities every day. I had a general disposition for it, but it's an occasional thing. It's a few and far between. It's when it's nice and convenient. And furthermore, there's a documentary film out there called Interdependence by J-Dog Productions. Greg Jeske and a whole group put that together, and a bunch of my friends from here in Wisconsin put that together, and they make a point about systemic oppression. It is really wonky, you know, like with income limits and the issues in employment and stuff like that, and then with housing. You know, I talked about independent living centers. Why do we have independent living centers? It's because we had in decades of past where people with disabilities were institutionalized. It was something where we wanted it to be an out of sight, out of mind element, and just have those people who take care of those people, take those people over there. It's such a thing that if we look at the history of our country here in the USA and other places around the world, when we set up living arrangements for people with disabilities, it's pretty universally where we set up the dwelling place and their bedroom with a single bed. So there is something we have to admit, that we never thought of people with disabilities as people who procreate. I mean, this is a deep-rooted, deep-seated thing. You know, so I'm out here around the world looking at that. I recognize 2 billion people around the world, 2 billion with a B as in boy, baby. Here we go, 2 billion people around the world. If you Google it, you will find that Google recognizes 1 billion people. So this shows me that we're not even halfway there. Furthermore, I propose the number 33. To really get the magnitude of this thing, I've run it through my analytics. I'm a little scientific guy. I married a scientist. My wife Sue works at a university here in Wisconsin, and she runs labs and so forth. So we're a little analytical. So I came up with the number 33. So that's why I have this question. What have you done? What are you doing? And what will you be doing with people with disabilities today? So right now, as I look at my computer, it says right here in the US, it's October 27th. So what can we journalize today and what our journey is through our faith life, our service life, our lifelong learning, our civic duties, our workplace, workspace, employment, being productive members of society, and all the fun things we do in life, whether it's entertainment, movies, stage productions, travel, hobbies, pastime, leisure activities, sports, recreation. When you say you work to live, what does living mean to you? When we're in service, we might say it can be all about helping others be at the best version of themselves. We had to be taught in the US of A about self-determination. We have a trend where people who don't have a disability think they've got it all figured out, what we've got to do for Americans with disabilities. It's letting Americans with disabilities come forward and speak for themselves and to be a part of the leadership. So in the business realm, I challenge leaders to find a way that appropriately so we find a good fit for Americans with disabilities and for the global marketplace, humans with disabilities to sit at the board table. So when you're having a board meeting, that people with disabilities are represented for the future of the company and for all of the customers and clients. When's the last time we did a project with a professional with a disability? And this is a support group thing. I'm a disability ally. I don't qualify for any program with it, for people with disabilities. So I'm not qualified to say, like, I'm on this show as an expert. I'm an expert as much as I can be at 51 years old with my life story. With everybody on this call, I know I can learn from 17 other people who are on the Zoom session and everybody that's catching this on Facebook Live. We got to do this together at a mass scale. This is why I got involved in mass media. This is why I put myself in places where there's distribution like this show, the Daily Huddle, because this has to get out there far and wide. This needs to revolutionize the world. When you talk about world peace, I determined that there's 100 people, like with the conflict right now. If you really boil it down, there's 100 people in the world that allow the present day conflict to happen. I propose that if we put the world's business in the hands of people with disabilities, we would achieve world peace. An example of how we put people with disabilities on the front line is My Team Triumph. My Team Triumph is partnered up with endurance athletes, endurance sports. We're talking about duathlons, triathlons, biathlons, all of that, the Ironman. And what they do is that when they bring their diverse ability athletes to the event, they run into some event organizers that like, oh yeah, we love to have them. And then their arrangement is to put them in the back. My Team Triumph just leaves. They're not in the convincing business. If that's the mindset, they're gone. The mindset of My Team Triumph is that people with disabilities are on the front. They start the event. So what are we doing today? What have we done? What are we doing? What will we do to put people with disabilities at the front of what we do? That's what I'm interested in doing. I'm still working on it. I don't claim to have daily success. I'm here today that I'm working on it myself. And I'm pleased to have the opportunity to work on this with all of you at the same time right now. So back to you, Giovanni. How are we doing?
How are we doing, Kurt? I mean, what a shift in mindset. And paradigm shift for me, and I'm sure for many of us who are on the call. This is moving, thought-provoking, inspiring. Kurt, man, you have awakened within me being responsible for what I haven't been responsible my entire life. And you have done it so generously. I mean, I don't feel you came with a stick of what haven't you done? You know, you didn't come with a stick, but you did create this space for me to look and see where can I grow in this direction. I love when you said, people with disabilities are the masters of abilities. And they're not objects of charity. You know, they are probably the source of world peace. And that was just masterful, and that was beautiful. And I am committed that this conversation doesn't leave me, Kurt. Thank you for being here. And thank you for devoting your life to what you have devoted it, and for bringing that conversation to as many people as you do. It's just moving and it's inspiring. And I want to give direction to this conversation. I want to ask you questions, and I'm going to start first with Tara, and then I'll jump in later. Tara, thank you for having your hand up. Hi, how are you, Tara?
Well, I'm not sure now after this little commentary. I'm going to try to choke this out. The timing of this is the strangest thing, because a few hours ago, I was working on my book and my editor said, I need to know more about what you were feeling when you realized that you were going to be a parent of a child with a disability. And so because of my life's journey, I have a great, deep passion, and I am very active to do things for people with disabilities. But here's the most difficult, vulnerable, challenging thing to say, is that before my daughter had a brain injury, I think I had a sense of superiority, like those were the other parents, and I kind of pitied them, but it didn't affect me. My kids were healthy. And then overnight, I became one of them. And I didn't even realize that I was living with a little sense of shame around that, because I never put words to it until this morning. And so I want to thank you for what you do. But the question is, where does this come from? You told the story, but I would like to hear a little bit more, because if we could get people with special needs to run the world, oh my God. My daughter today is the sweetest human being I will ever know. And a lot of that's due to her disability.
Yeah, so I would say, right off the bat, Tara, like I say, I've got ability ministry, and I always start there. In sacred scripture, we're equally yoked. So when I look at 8 billion people around the world, I look at, my role is to, bridge the gap between any arrangement of, might say, inequity, that, all the things of social justice and things like that, which, again, for the first 40 years of my life wasn't as much of a big deal as it's evolved to be in the last 10 years. So I understand the opportunity to kind of go from a little bit like what you're speaking to, kind of where we have this opportunity in our journey of life to make that change, and then as an individual, we're contributing to the collective change that, is happening with or without us around the world. I mean, it is very exciting to see when you open your eyes to it and you really have that reticular activation to recognize where there's a ginormous population around the world, moving this conversation, whether any of us on, the Daily Huddle or within this reach does anything or not. There's going to be monumental and magnificent things coming along regardless, because it is the natural place for where the world and we as a civilization and in our evolution, it's just going to go there. I mean, it's the natural forces at play. So it's just a matter of how are we going to experience it? And, you know, with people who are alive on Earth today, you know, how is it going to make a difference, you know, for people now, you know, instead of procrastinating and waiting. So that's what I hope to do, is to empower people, you know, to act immediately. And that's why my theme is about today, not waiting till tomorrow. So we have a question.
Inspiring.
Thanks, Tara. So we do have a question here. Who has the question?
Thank you, Tara. That was, man. I'm often never moved, but I am moved in today's Daily Huddle. I am so thankful for this platform, and Kurt, thank you for being here. And oh my gosh. Okay, so Cece, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this conversation. One of my questions is, people who have disabilities, a lot of people, I'm actually one of the disabled people, but they look at me from the outside and form their own opinion as though I don't have any. And then they attempt to try to take advantage of the disabilities. So what kind of structure is there? Because disability is disability, whether it be mild, medium, or, you know, severe. So how do we, you know, stop discriminating against certain types of disabilities? Because disability is just disability. So how do we move past that so that the people who are disabled are able to move forward and get the accommodations that they really need to move forward in life? And I pass. Thank you.
Yeah. So one part that this brings forward for me is that, you know, when we say people with disabilities or Americans with disabilities and so forth, it's because of the, you know, economic structures and the distribution of resources, that the title is pervasive. If we evolve our economic system, and if we can look at what our country has for all the citizens and inhabitants and people within our nation, and then on the worldwide level, the same thing, a lot of this goes away. You know, if we build a world in universal design, global public inclusive infrastructure, and economically create where, you know, people can have the resources that they need to be the best version of themselves and to propel their story as great as it can be for propelling the future of, you know, our business here on Earth, you know, a lot of that goes away. So it's government programs, because you can't kind of sort of have a government employee delivering disability service. So that's kind of where this false binary comes from. And then medically, there's a lot of relation to where medical providers, you know, have protocols for people with disabilities. Outside of that, this whole labeling, you know, of people with disabilities becomes, you know, very insignificant. So really, there's the other side of it, that if you get away from that necessity in the systems, really, we have 8 billion people on Earth with disabilities. So if you think of it that way, if you get away from the need in systems to have identification of people with disabilities, you know, that's where I could say I have a disability. You know, everybody on this call could say they have a disability. But advocates want to be careful because they don't want to muddy the waters on disability identity, because there's necessity yet in our economic system to have those benefits. Rashida, what are you bringing forward?
Thank you so much for the topic this morning. Thank you very much. And one of the things that I really understood your mission. And why I say that is because I manage vacation rental in the Poconos Mountain. I have like 25 vacation rental that I manage. And one of the things that I really advocate for is ramps for wheelchair. And the homeowners, them look at me like I'm crazy. Are you out of your mind, lady? And trust me, I have 3 vacation rent out of the 25 that I manage that they put wheelchair ramp, and they not out of rental every weekend. So that just advocating for that wheelchair ramp make a difference to the homeowners. And they say, oh, but it costs so much money and so much this. And I say, trust me, you make back that money 10 times fold. And one of the things that I see that they started implementing now, and the churches that I go to, is that they put in wheelchair ramp now. So it's trust me, it's a calling for people to really make consciousness how that community that exists, that we are giving them, or like our hand, our back. Trust me, thank you so much for advocating for people with disability. And like what you say, it could be everyone on this call, or maybe we have an offspring, or we have someone related to us that have disability. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. This allows me to just insert real quickly that there's a term I learned 10 years ago called visitability, and I applied it as vice chair of the Wisconsin Council for people with disabilities. And the idea is that with all the homes and dwelling places, you know, how many homes don't have, like you say, a ramp because we don't have anybody living there with a disability. So it doesn't matter. What that means is that you're not going to be visited by a person with a disability. So there's this evidence of segregation that is alive and well. So I encourage everybody to learn about visitability. And yes, let's create a world where every home is in universal design for all people with disabilities, so that the welcome, whether it's public or private, is there for people with disabilities. And I can acknowledge Atlanta, Georgia. If you look into your history in Atlanta, you know, in the realm of disability advocacy, there's some amazing stories told by people that have lived and people who are still living in Georgia. Way to go, Georgia. So other than that, I know we're at the bottom of the hour. Giovanni, where do we go from here?
Kurt, you're managing the Daily Huddle, taking questions, inspiring it as all. It's time's up. Kurt, you're an incredible human being. Your heart is generous and inspiring. Thank you for being here. Thank you for creating a space where people like myself can look at an area where I have not been looking at. And now I have the rest of my life to create a space for visitability. And I know I will from this conversation, Kurt. I know I will. So Kurt, like you said, time is up. Is there anything you want to say to finish our call today? Some last thoughts.
Well, I guess I'll just connect the dots on, you know, a little bit with the questions and so forth. You know, I purposefully frame my conversations as going through a 6-lane superhighway. So when I cite, you know, faith, service, education, government, economics, business, and then the fun things we do in life, those are the check-in points that allow us to be empowered to make it an everyday thing. So when we're in our faith space, look around. If it's virtual, listen, you know, where's the evidence that we're inclusive? You know, again, when we're serving, when we're being a part of that walk, run, why isn't it a walk, run, roll? To acknowledge that some people roll through the event, you know, such like that with education, with personal professional development. When we're speaking, when we're a public speaker, are we making our message available to the deaf and hard of hearing community? You know, what's the future of the Daily Huddle? To have a sign language interpreter. And a lot of times when we have these ideas, it takes a collective effort, you know, and government calls it collective impact. We hear about private-public partnerships. Working together works. And again, what's fun gets done. So when you're out there having fun, when you're traveling, when you're watching a movie, when you're doing your thing that is imbibing you, look around. What can you do to make that fun more available to a person with a disability? There you go. Go on and have fun.
That was beautiful, man. My life is not the same. That was beautiful. Thank you, Kurt, Sorry, thank you all for being here. Virtue, Harumi, Sue, thank you for being a partner of this crazy guy. Thank you for Emily, Jennifer, thank you all for being here. Just Bear, I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for being here, man. Thank you all for being here. I love you. Saurel loves you more. And there are 9 tenants now. Saurel, there are 9 tenants now. Saurel, I don't know if Saurel still be here.
Start with number 9, Gio.
Number 9 is be inclusive and be someone who creates visitabilities. I'm gonna frame it better later, but be inclusive. Number 2 is love. Love always. Love those that you have an opinion about. Love those you haven't loved a lot for a long time. Love those that hurt you. Eat more plant-based. Get closer to the trees. Hug the trees. Eat the trees. Laugh out loud. Sleep more. Stress less. Walk every day. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes after lunch. Walk every day. And don't forget the famous words of Dr. Ogando, along with another rapper, something like that. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check your assumptions. I love you, Saurel loves you more. Have a phenomenal weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One love, guys. One love.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Daily Huddle family. Thank you.